His book is called A Few Bad Men, and author and retired Marine Major Fred Galvin joins us now.
We went into this village, and as we entered this village in our Humvee convoy, everybody was lined up on the side of the road. These were fighting age men. And it had changed the baseline from 3 hours prior, which was a normal atmospherics and pattern of life, the hustle and bustle with this roadside market, women and children, men, everybody buying things. This time when we passed by 3 hours later, it was radically different. Just fighting age men lined up on the side of the road, looking like at us, lined up like a parade. And we knew something was about ready to happen. We were waiting for a trigger, and a car bomb detonated, boom, scorched the trees over 100 foot above us. And then they hit our second vehicle, which was an ambulance. It visually was distinct, and it did have thinner armor. And so as soon as that vehicle was hit, right point blank with this van filled with explosives and shrapnel, detonated right on the van. Then another vehicle, a sports utility vehicle, was coming down this dirt trail. 3 jihadists hanging out of the windows, firing their AK-47s fully automatic at us in an attempt to finish us off. That, obviously our Marines, this happened at 9 o'clock in the morning. So we got up, aimed the machine guns, made quick work of them, killed them immediately. The driver of that vehicle did bail out of his vehicle into a ditch. He continued to fight against us. And he actually testified telephonically, video teleconference, sort of like what we're doing, from an American base in Afghanistan as a prosecution's lead witness during the trial a year later. I know I'm spoiling some of what's in the book, and it's mainly just to tease that, people are going to shake their head like, I can't believe that this Taliban fighter who was paid for the 3 jihadists that were in his vehicle, we paid the equivalent of 4 years' salary for each one of those jihadists that we killed. We paid this terrorist leader. And in the book, it shows, the evidence of who this guy was. He was a key Taliban leader. It's just disgusting. And, the prosecution thanked him and, just kind of teared up during the, oh, this guy's just a good man. So after we made quick work of that vehicle, Rob, we got attacked on the other side of the road, not from vehicles. This was dismounted. These were in a riverbed. So they had one echelon that was providing a suppressive fire from a stationary position while another would bound towards us. And they'd use this leaping and bounding in echelons to advance towards us. Obviously, we're on a road with elevation inside the turrets of our trucks, a little higher, looking straight down into this dry riverbed. So when you got machine guns, the old axiom of Marine infantry is take the high ground, maintain fire superiority. And, that was quick work. Men stacked them up like cordwood right away. And then we were still receiving sniper fire from a hilltop, and they dragged a vehicle across the road in front of us, blocking us in there. This mass mob of unarmed men formed at the front of our patrol, blocking us in the kill zone while we were getting hit with sniper fire. So the sergeant who was in our first vehicle, real tuned in Marine, aimed high above the heads of this mob in front of us, fired his machine gun. That parted everybody like the Red Sea. And after 5 minutes of being in the kill zone, we assessed that even the vehicle that got blown up its communication had been damaged. We used hand and arm signals to figure out their status. And then we were able to depart the area. We were going in that village to do a tribal leader engagement. As you've seen, Rob, over 20 years, this hearts and minds counterinsurgency strategy wasn't too effective unless you're one of these defense firms that, like Halliburton, Lockheed, Boeing, that you benefit from a forever war and keeping it going. But I don't think any of our generals that lied to Congress and the media for decades, literally, stating that everything was going swimmingly, the Afghan National Army is is stood up and they're effective, and that's we just need to stay the course and continue to train them, and that's our bid for success to get out of there. Well, we know how that ended. Those were 20 years of outright lies, didn't have any return on investment. If these generals wanted any skin in the game, they could have literally sent their brides to a bed and breakfast in Bagram to see how effective that strategy really was, but that didn't ever happen. So anyway, we returned to base. We were back on base 20 minutes after this attack. This already had circulated via, the first report was in the BBC radio that Americans had killed Afghan women and children. Then it started to circulate on other media sources, the New York Times, Washington Post. They have Afghans, after Mr. Pearl, the reporter who was decapitated, that became very dangerous, especially in Afghanistan, where you get off the base, you're very vulnerable, and people knew that. So a lot of news agencies were utilizing locals as their members of the media. They would give them the bona fides to go out there and report and capture pictures, and they were their sources. Well, you can imagine how that works, Rob, when you're in an area that is controlled by the Taliban and there's coercion by a head missing here, some assassinations. Well, the Taliban became very smart on how to influence these reporters, which they were essentially their stringers. They would go out there and write these stories that the Taliban would use as propaganda, and it went straight, unvetted, no fact checking. I mean, people aren't going to go out into a Taliban controlled village and check facts. No. So they just took it at at face value that, hey, this is the truth. And so these started to circulate, and this was immediately after we got back on our patrol. Then we had it got worse and worse. So immediately at that point, there was a mass rioting, put pressure on the president of Afghanistan, Hamid Karzai, who came out publicly and condemned us. The generals immediately kicked us out of Afghanistan. They sent us to Kuwait, where our battalion commander met us with the commanding general of Marine Special Operations Command. And the first words out of our battalion commander's mouth, here's a guy who's observed us. We were in his formation, we were the only company to be stood up and deployed originally. Then they were forming one right behind us. Mm-hmm. But the first words out of his mouth echoed what the Taliban, tribal elders in that village. This is the first village on the Afghan-Pakistan side. So to set the stage, Pakistan, we couldn't go into Pakistan, so it became a training sanctuary for the Taliban. They would train jihadists, and once they're fully radicalized, they would move them over across the border into Afghanistan. And the first town that was there, what do you think they used that hub for? That was kind of like your Amazon fulfillment center. They would use that to link up with their handlers and take them to fight the infidels all over Afghanistan, Kabul, Bagram, Sangin, Kandahar. So that little distribution node is where we were going in that morning. But the tribal elders from that little village, Badi Ko, that we got ambushed at, they started circulating these rumors that the Marines, that there was no explosion from the Taliban. There's no Taliban at all, that the Marines used slingshots with grenades. And this is what the Taliban elders were saying, that we manufactured that there was an explosion to give us justification that we we dismounted from our vehicles and we went door to door, sport killing women and children, that we were drunk. They said that after we left and fled and shot up vehicles for 16 miles, they said then we returned and threatened reporters and covered this up. Well, our battalion commander, I don't think he believed this. I mean, he was a very egocentric person, but he was duped because he wanted to believe this. He had a severe distaste And I think that was because of his ego and pride of, hey, this unit is taking the attention off of me. It was similar to, I'm not trying to preach at you here, but like in the Bible where Saul has killed thousands and David has killed tens of thousands. And, Saul became outraged at, how could my subordinate unit, everybody in the battalion is talking about all this training that they're doing around the country with Green Berets and Air Force Special Operations and all this. And that success just ate him alive.
Listen to the full interview at this link or wherever you get your podcasts.